This is the MX10 Android 7 TV box, capable of streaming 4K footage, but is it worth it? Stick around to find out. It's TechWiz time. Hey guys, hope your week's going well. My name's Jonathan and this is TechWiz Time, the channel where I create technology tutorial and review videos. As you may have guessed, this is the MX10 Android TV box. It comes with Android 7.1.2, but before we get into specs, I just want to thank Gearbest for sending this out to me. No money has exchanged hands and thoughts and opinions are my own. What's in the box? So the first thing in there is the box itself, but I'll just put that to the side for the moment. Bit of cardboard. Okay, so the first thing in there is a HDMI cable, a cool looking remote. Reminds me of the Roku. Very nice. And lastly, a 5-volt 2.5 amp power supply. Oh, one other thing, there is a user manual down the bottom, so if you get stuck, you can maybe find some answers there. So let's have a look at the box itself. There we go, I'll just peel this off. And by the looks of it, it's got the matte top there with the gold logo and glossy sides, the fingerprint magnet. On the right, we've got 2 USB ports, a USB 3 port, and an SD card slot. On the rear, we've got another USB port, we've got an SP-Diff port, AV port, HDMI, Ethernet, and 5-volt power. Now this is a quad-core Cortex-A53 chipset, or the RK3328. It's got the Mali 450 GPU and 4GB of RAM. The RAM is DDR3, just so you know. There's also 32GB of onboard storage. Now this is capable of playing H.265 files in 4K resolution up to 60 frames per second, but we'll put that through the test. There's also Wi-Fi in there, but I'll have to confirm that when I go through the test itself. So with the unboxing and the specs all out of the way, let's go and have a look at benchmarks and what this box can actually do. So first up, we'll test the storage and we'll see how fast we can get this running. So using A1 SD Bench on the internal storage, we're getting a read rate of 101 megabytes per second and a write rate of 69 megabytes per second, which is pretty good. The SD card slot though is where it fails. Using a high-speed memory card that is capable of over 90 megabytes per second on the read and write, we're only seeing 16 megabytes read and 19 megabytes write. And lastly, the RAM speed comes in at 3,416 megabytes per second. Now let's go and test the networking speed. So on Wi-Fi, we can see the speed test is at 27 megabytes per second down and 28 megabytes per second up, which isn't too bad. But switching it over to the LAN speed, so a wide connection, we're looking at 81 megabytes per second down and 34 megabytes per second up. So if you're looking at downloading onto this box, then I would definitely recommend a wired connection. Over now to Antutu, we can see that the total score is 34,096. With broken down, we've got a 3D score of 1,462, a UX score of 17,352, a CPU score of 11,106, and a RAM score of 4,176. Switching over to Geekbench, we can see the single core score is 541 and the multi-core score is 1,396. 3D gaming is fine for most 3D games. When it comes to testing out the hardware though, in PPSSPP, the PSP emulator, we can see Power Stone gets an average of about 40 to 50 frames per second, which isn't too bad. But the real test is always God of War, and in this case we're only seeing 1 to 6 frames per second, so it's not going to be able to emulate this one for you guys. Now the thing that this is going to be used mostly for is as a media streamer. So launching into Kodi, we can see that Big Buck Bunny at the 4K resolution 30 frames per second is not too bad. It actually achieves that. But when we change over to the 4K 60 frames per second file, you can see that it just doesn't work at all. So that one you can steer clear of if you're going to be running 60 frames per second. Over now to the Jellyfish test, we've got the same file but encoded 4 different ways. There's a 1080p version and 3 4K versions. The 1080p version is H.264 with 55 megabits per second bitrate. The 4K version is H.265 and there's 3 of those at 140 megabits per second, 200 megabits per second and 400 megabits per second. And you can see here with all 4 that the only one that really runs is the HD 55 megabits per second file. So if you're looking at using large 4K encoded files, then this box isn't for you, unfortunately. So with that said, general YouTube and Netflix streaming works fine. You can see here YouTube, one of my videos, is operating at the 1080p resolution and no problems whatsoever. And even the Netflix app is working perfectly fine as well. You can see here Stranger Things running perfectly. How awesome is that? So that's the MX10 Android TV box. Is it worth the $60? If you don't have enough for an Nvidia Shield TV, the 2017 model I should say, then yeah, it's for 60 bucks, yeah, this is a really good buy. If you do have extra money though, the Nvidia Shield is obviously better. So what did you think of my first TV box review? I've done phones, I've done laptops, and now I've done a TV box. So let me know if I missed anything or if you want to see anything in the future for these kind of reviews. Have you heard about a bird? No, not Twitter. I'm talking about YouTube. If you haven't subscribed, then make sure you do down below by hitting the big red button. If you are a subscriber, then hit the bell icon and get notified of my new videos whenever they're released. I just want to thank everyone in advance for sharing this video and also liking it as well, because it really does help this channel to grow. And as always, imagine, learn, create.